You might be wondering, Halloween, how do you come up with these rants? You just seem to spring out rage out of nowhere, but this is not the case, no. These rants do actually have a place in my mind. They sit there like some sort of weird frog in a pond that sort of gives you the evil eye as you walk past, and you wonder, what kind of frog is that? You just don't know. You look at it and you're just very puzzled. It's kind of stripy and stuff, and then you go to prod it and it explodes. That's the kind of anger and rage I think about with some of these subjects. Anyway, so I'm going to be ranting about the glorious DLC and microtransactions this evening. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem. Like, DLC in general is not an evil thing. Like, no matter how much bad shtick it gets, DLC can be a very good thing. I mean, there are various kinds of DLC. Let's say there's expansion pack style DLC like the Skyrim stuff. There's the costume style DLC like the Street Fighter stuff. The cheat code style DLC like you get in what's it called? Crackdown, for example. Things like that. That's not, you know, all of those are different forms of DLC, and some of these are good, and some of these are bad. Generally speaking, on the DLC scale, what you're aiming for is something close to an expansion pack of old, like, say, the Baldur's Gate 2 expansion pack, in today's terms of DLC, would be something like the Skyrim ones. So you're looking at Dragonborn on Skyrim, is giving you something like 4 to 5 hours of extra content, maybe slightly more, for the 12 or so pounds you pay for it, so it's, what, $16, $17, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not great, it's not better than it used to be, but that's not bad. As far as DLC goes, that's pretty decent. It doesn't affect the main game. It doesn't do anything else. It just adds extra that wasn't in the game before. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. And that I'm absolutely okay with. The kind of DLC that isn't good is the other example I gave you, the Street Fighter one, where you've paid to get a costume. Now, that's incredibly dumb in many, many ways. Especially because of the fact you've already paid for the game, that all this stuff should be in there in the first place. But we'll go into that in a bit more depth. The other problem I see really is microtransactions. Now, on a free-to-play game, microtransactions are not a problem. For those of you who don't know what a microtransaction is, by the way, it's a small, usually very nominal fee inside a game that lets you gain something, via, be it XP, be it an extra gun, be it extra ammo, to help you complete the game. That's the sort of standard microtransaction style. Now, microtransaction in general, again, is not necessarily a problem. More or less, if your game is free to play. An example of this would be the League of Legends style, where the game is completely free, everything is open to you, it just takes time. If you want to shorten the time available to get stuff, to unlock stuff, then you can pay money, but there's nothing game-changing that you can pay money for. You can't buy the runes that affect your skills in League of Legends with real money, that just doesn't happen. But you can buy characters earlier, so which just speeds up the process. It doesn't really give you an advantage, though, which is the best kind. That's the kind of microtransaction that isn't too bad. The bad kind is what I like to call the Tales of Vesperia kind, which is where you've already paid £40 or $60 for your very nice shiny game, you get into it and it tells you, would you like to buy some XP packs, or a gel boosting pack for 600 Microsoft points or something garbage like this. One, that's not particularly micro, and two, that's terrible. Anything that gives you like an advantage directly in game, rather than any just little trinkets or like things like that, is bad. And especially the fact that if you've paid for the game, everything should be free. There should be no boosts. There shouldn't be anything available to you. It's ridiculous. Now, the biggest one at the moment that I've seen recently is Dead Space 3. Dead Space 3 has microtransactions, the fact that you can get more scavenger bots and things like that, which I think is personally terrible. I don't think that should be anywhere near a $60 game. You've paid $60, everything should be available to you. There should be absolutely nothing sealed off. But of course, DLC does seal everything off. So let's start with the big one then. Let's start with crappy DLC. Let's get this over and done with. Crappy DLC is the kind of DLC where you would get exclusive stuff. So we're talking about the GameStop exclusive costumes, the GameStop exclusive stages, the Best Buy exclusive stages, that kind of thing, where you're locking the player out because he did not pre-order in the right place. He or she, sorry, did not pre-order in the right place. Which is, quite frankly, absolutely absurd. You are locking out parts of a game that someone has paid for because they did not pre-order at the right store. Now, to even begin to try and imagine where this is wrong is crazy. Like, this doesn't make sense. You are screwing over your consumers because they did not shop at one of your partners. What? What? Like, what are you even thinking? What are you thinking? You honestly want me to take my game, get home, and go, wow, this bit looks cool, and you have an NPC tell you, well, if you'd have purchased this, you could have access to this. Which is what happens in Dragon Age, I might add. But we'll get into that in a second. Now, that, quite frankly, is absolutely appalling. Metal Gear Rising Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, I think, is a culprit of this. Pre-order from certain places, get certain costumes. Stupid. How about pre-order from certain places, get certain costumes sooner, but you can still unlock them in the game. Therefore, everyone is happy. Those who pre-order from a place go, oh, I can play with costume from day one. Those who do not go, oh, well, if I unlock it in the game, costume is available. Good. Everyone is happy. Dunno, you haven't ruined it for anybody, you've just made it slightly quicker. There's your bonus, you've made it quicker for someone. Problem solved. Or just do cool stuff, like pre-order from GameStop and get a scarf, I don't know. Yeah, okay, it's not in the game, but you get some free crap with it, sure, why not? That doesn't matter, that's kind of neat. But locking bits of the game up because you didn't pre-order in the right place is ridiculous. And moving on slightly from this, in the same kind of vein, Dragon Age. Let's look at Dragon Age. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the first Dragon Age, it is a great game. However, when I get to the first campsite and I see a man in the corner go, did you know if you purchase the premium BioWare content quest, you can come help me clear my cave? And I'm like, what the shit? Not only does this take you out of the game, which is completely ludicrous to begin with, I'm trying to be immersed in your game, that's just terrible! Terrible, terrible, terrible idea. You want me to suddenly go out of the game, go to your crappy old website, buy your crappy points, and buy your stupid DLC? No, fuck off. I'm not doing that. You can go balls it. Seriously, what the hell? That is absolutely ludicrous. Terrible, terrible DLC idea. And again, the game comes with the pre-order bonus of an extra character. Now, again, not necessarily a bad thing if you could unlock the character later in-game, which you can't. If you don't have the DLC, you have to pay for Shale. Terrible. And if you don't do this, you will be constantly reminded that you should be paying. Dragon Age, that is awful. Awful. And you deserve every slam you get for that. That is tragic. Great game. Terrible DLC system. You're taking away content that someone has paid for. They pay for the entire game. You have removed bits. This is available on launch. You do not take away things that are available on launch. You give them to people. And in the same vein, BioWare, I'm going to target you again, because Mass Effect 3, you start, oh, there's a character that is pretty damn important to the entire series, is not available unless you pay the day one DLC. How about, piss off, BioWare, how about I just no longer buy your stuff? Problem solved. You can't lock out characters in an RPG that, one, not only that, is absolutely vital to the story, that is, I can't say too much about spoiling it, but, I mean, who cares at this point, but a figment, or not a figment, a part of the past of the game, a part of the lore, it's absolutely massive. And you're locking that out to players who don't buy your day one DLC. What? All of that should be there for the player. If you finish it in time for day one, give it for them for free. It's a great incentive to buy your game. We've done extra stuff for you. This is how it used to work, right? You bought a game, extra stuff came out, you got more stuff. It's an incentive to buy the game. Look at Minecraft, say, Terraria. Both of these games will say, you buy it, you get everything with it. Cool. And any future that comes out, you also get that. Fantastic. Team Fortress, again, same idea. Okay, so that's your examples of terrible DLC. More terrible DLC. Okay, here's a great example of good DLC, right? Valkyria Chronicles. Okay, you have an additional mission pack. It costs you about £3. You get 4 missions in it, and get to play as one of the boss characters at the end of it. Throughout of it, and then the special boss form at the end. Which is really, really cool for fans of the game. Really, really fun, and it's great to play. And for £3, you get hours and hours of enjoyment. Perfect example of why some DLC is absolutely fantastic. That is great DLC. You've added download content to your game which extends the lifespan, any fans of the original will be buying it, and everyone is happy. Woohoo! Bad example, Valkyria Chronicles, adding an extra hard mode for £3, or whatever it is, I think it's about that. That is not acceptable. That is terrible. Valkyria Chronicles, bad example. Here's another one. How about we add one mission for another £3? No, terrible. You don't add one mission for £3. Not when you've added one previously for 4. 4 missions? That, you know, you don't add. You need to add actual worthwhile content. Nier's DLC is a little bit rocky, a bit of both. Like, it adds, I guess, 45 to an hour and a couple of new weapons and some new costumes. You get a lot with it, but there's also not a huge amount of content. I mean, the extra costumes and stuff is nice, and to be fair, they were not in the game. The sort of DLC is a bit better. Like, you're not paying for an unlock code. You don't pay and have 26 kilobytes of download. You have to download 500 megabytes, get all this put in properly into the game, it refits in, and you then get the costumes which have been downloaded as well. That's okay. It's a little bit shaky, but it was really cheap. You know, you get what you pay for. That's not a bad DLC. And it's one of the only complaints I have about Nier, to be honest. The DLC is not fantastic, but I'm kind of happy we got DLC regardless. So, yeah, we've got the good examples of DLC and the bad examples of DLC. The best examples of DLC are something that looks like expansion packs. You're talking stuff like Skyrim. I'm bringing Skyrim up again because I'm not saying it's my favourite game in the world, but it does the DLC very well. You pay £12 for the DLC, £14 for the DLC, whatever, and you get a minimum of 4 or 5 hours of solid content, which is pretty decent. You then also get extra stuff to explore, extra things to do, extra stuff that adds to the world. All of that's really good. And for the price, that's not half bad. Seriously, that's not half bad at all. And it's a mini expansion pack. It's not like the expansion packs are old. It's no Shivering Isle, say. But it's still not bad. That's not a bad go. It's, again, no Yuri's Revenge. It's, no Red Alert 2 expansion pack. But hey, you pay slightly less, you get slightly less. I'm okay with that. That's pretty decent DLC. It takes nothing away from the main game and adds everything to it. If you want to buy it, great. You've got new stuff. If you don't, it doesn't affect anything at all. Perfect. Okay, let's move on to another bad example then. Dragon's Dogma. Hello, yes, you are a fairly decent game. Having pre-order exclusive quests to GameStop and Best Buy and Amazon is crap, and you deserve a big slap in the face for it. Bad Dragon's Dogma. Terrible. Capcom, again, I'm going to pick on you for a bit. Street Fighter costumes, I mentioned this before. In the olden days, I hate to be like this, we used to complete the games and you get new costumes and stuff you could play around with. May I point you at Bayonetta for a good example of this, where you complete the game, you unlock like 8 costumes and stuff. That's cool. You can play your character with new stuff, and you can sometimes even get new characters. That's great. New characters. Woohoo! Street Fighter, you want me to pay for additional costumes. That's not cool. No, not when they should just be in the game, or at least given for free for me buying your game in the damn first place and supporting you. Ugh! Seriously? Seriously? You pulling that? Terrible. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Seriously. You're trying to nickel and dime your player base to death for no good reason. Never support DLC like this. It is crap. There's never a good reason to. Just look at any previous game. A game these days, if you want cheat codes or extra cool things, you have to pay for it. Whereas back then, you would just have cheat codes, you'd push up, C, down, C, left, C, right, C, A and start. You could do a level skip, you could turn yourself into a block, you could make billions of bad guys appear. Lots of cool fun stuff. You didn't have to pay an extra bean for it. This is bad DLC. You should never, ever support crappy stuff like this. Never a good reason. Ever. And then that brings us to the microtransactions, really. We've kind of moved full circle now. And microtransactions. Again, to clarify, microtransactions are fine in a game which is free. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because that is essentially the way the game is supporting itself. You don't have to pay for the game initially, but the developers will make their money when people want to buy extras for the game, normally to make the sort of grind less. And in a free-to-play game, you can't complain. It's not costing you anything, it's not a problem. In a full-price game, that's where we're starting to hit a snag, isn't it? EA. Now, EA have said they're going to add microtransactions to every single one of their premium titles now, which means FIFA, Madden, Dead Spaces, whatever crappy other games they got up their sleeve. I can't be bothered to go and look up. Mass Effects, Dragon Ages, etc., etc. Now, this is just not acceptable. You shouldn't. Microtransactions are going to be stuff like get an extra gun early, unlock a cheat mode, things like this for like 99p, or 99 cents, or $1.50, or whatever the equivalent's going to be. Like, does anyone think that's okay? The current argument I hear a lot is, well, you don't have to buy it. You're quite correct. I do not have to buy it. You are very, very correct. However, the fact it is in my game, constantly reminding me of why I could be buying it and how awesome it is not cool. And it's just, why is it even in the game? I'm already paying the premium amount for your game. Your games are already expensive. They are £40 or $60. That's a lot of money, guys. It's a lot of money. I mean, they're cheaper than they used to be, I have to be honest. Like, Super Nintendo games were £60. And that was £60 18 years ago. That was a lot more as well. It's probably more the equivalent of 90, 100 quid. But that's irrelevant at this point. Like, before the internet age, we did not need to worry about this. We did not need to worry about getting nickel and dime to death in our own games that we're trying to enjoy. And being constantly reminded of when we're not doing it. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't buy this. Well, you should have bought this. It'd been a lot quicker. Or even having games designed around the fact that people should be buying the microtransactions. And this is the place we could be ending up. If we end up, say, in a world where, the game gets really difficult here, it gets very grindy, but you can spend 3 hours grinding, or of course you can just spend 30p and you can get a boost and go straight through. Now, this is a tricky, sort of nasty situation to be in. It's not nice. Just sort of food for thought, really. Well, that's pretty much it. That's all I had sort of ranting to go with. In conclusion, DLC isn't inherently evil, neither is microtransactions. It does depend on the situation. There are good kinds, there are bad kinds. Don't be fooled. Don't get duped by the bad guys. Don't support companies that do crap. That's really all you can say, isn't it? Enjoy the games, ignore the DLC, and hopefully they'll get the idea. But of course, this is not going to happen. We are going to see games absolutely flooded by it. On the closing point, people keep saying there's going to be another market crash. I don't think it's going to be a crash in the same sense as the 83 one. But I certainly think we're going to see a change of some sort soon. It depends how much people are willing to put up with, really. Rumour has it that both Sony and Microsoft are going to be locking out pre-owned games. Sony have been backpedaling recently, so who knows what the case is going to be. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Yeah, rant over. You can all go back to your daily activities and let this grumpy man go back under his rock and sort of shake his fist at the clouds. Cheers.